Communication process, a process by definition or simple explanation, is a systematic series of actions, operation of series of sentences directed to some end. Communication is never a one-way process because it comprises of exchange and progression of ideas towards a mutually acceptable direction or goal. It means, therefore, that in the process of communication, two or more persons must participate through a medium that carries the information or message for a particular purpose, mutually understood by both the sender and the receiver. Only when these conditions are fulfilled, a significant communicative situation will take shape and transpire between the two parties, that are the sender and the receiver. Whether spoken or written will be the communicative event. Any letter or report, interview or conference, memo or complaint is a communicative event. The importance of these communicative events cannot be overemphasized. They are the very lifeline of any organization. For the communication process to take place, it is essential to identify the basic components of communication. These components are as follows. Number 1. Sender or encoder or speaker. Number 2. Receiver or decoder or listener. Number 3. Message. Number 4. Medium. Number 5. Feedback. Number 1. Sender or encoder or speaker. The person who initiates the communication process is normally referred to as the sender. He is the person who transmits, spreads, or communicates a message and is the one who conceives and initiates the message with the purpose of informing or persuading or influencing or changing the attitude, opinion, or behavior of the receiver or audience or listener. From this personal data bank, he selects ideas, encodes, and finally transmits them to the receiver. The entire burden of communication then depends on the sender or encoder. In this process, a number of factors come into action, primary among them being an understanding of the recipient and his needs. If the message can be formulated in accordance with the expectations of the receiver, the level of acceptance is going to be higher. Number 2. Receiver or decoder or listener. A receiver is the targeted audience of the message. The receiver gets the message, understands, interprets, and tries to perceive the total meaning of the message as transmitted by the sender. He receives an encoded message which attempts to decode. This process is carried on in relation to the work environment and the value perceived in terms of the work situation. If the goal of a sender is envisioned as similar to his own, the listener becomes more receptive. The decoding of the message is done in almost entirely the same term as were intended by the sender. Number 3. Message. It is information, written or spoken, which is to be sent from person to another. The most important characteristic of a message as an element of communication is that it is organized, structured, shaped, and selective, a product of pre-writing or pre-speaking stage. It exists in the mind of the sender, communicator. That is, message is the encoded idea transmitted by the sender. The formulation of the message is very important for an incorrect patterning and can turn the receiver hostile or make him lose interest. At this stage, the sender has to be extremely cautious. What is the order in which he would like to present his ideas? In this case, the manner in which the message should be formulated and the ordering transmitted, as stated earlier, should be based on the requirements of the listener so that its significance is immediately grasped. The minute the receiver finds his goals codified in the message, he sits up, listens and responds. The message thus has an impact. Number 4. Medium or channel. Another important element of communication is the medium or channel. This is vehicle or medium which facilitates the sender to convey the message to the receiver. It could be oral, written or non-verbal. Prior to the composition of the message, the medium or channel should be decided. Each medium follows its own set of rules and regulations. For example, in oral communication, one can afford to be little informal, but when using the written mode, all rules of communication need to be observed. It must be remembered that anything in writing is a document that would be filled for records or circulated to all concerned. Number 5. Feedback. This is the top loop that connects the receiver in the communication process with the sender, who in turn acts as a feedback receiver and thus gets to know that communication has been accomplished. It also ensures that the receiver has received the message and understood it is as intended by the sender. This is the most significant constituent of the communication process. Communication is effective only as of a feedback. The mistakes and faults that are bound to happen in a commercial scenario are only because of the absence of feedback. Here we consider the characteristic responses of people who have been part of miscommunication. I had not meant this, or I had not said this, or this was not intended by me. If feedback is asked for in every case, this problem can be reduced to a minimum level, or it can also be totally removed. The causes for deceptive testimonials or faulty inferences are absence of confirmation through feedback and consistency between the message transmitted and that which has been understood. The process of feedback assures the initiator of the action about its correctness and possible impact. The various elements of communication are briefly described to help one in understanding the process of communication. Besides these two elements, there are two more terms to be understood in the process of communication. Number 1. Encoding. Encoding is changing the message from its mental form into symbols, that is patterns of words or gestures or pictorial forms or signs, physical or of sounds of a specific visual or oral language. Number 2. Decoding. This is the act of translating symbols used in communication to their ordinary meanings. However, the total meanings would consist of meanings of the words or symbols together with the tone and the attitude of the sender as reflected by the structure of the message and the choice of words used by him, that means the sender. In management, the decision making process is greatly supported by receiving feedback from those who are directly concerned with any changes proposed or effected and communicated to them. Next, working of the communication process. One-way process. The sender, according to his ideas, behavior pattern and intention, selects a message. Next, He then encodes the message. After encoding the message, he transmits it to the receiver through a medium which can be oral, verbal or non-verbal. As soon as the message reaches the receiver, he decodes it and gives an internal response to the perceived message. It is not worthy that the response is not in relation to the actual content but rather to the perceived content of the original message. This completes the first phase of the communication process. The manner in which the sender and receiver perceive the same word could give rise to difference in encoding and decoding. The last step completes the one-way process of communication. Next, two-way process. One-way communication process is incomplete as the sender does not come to know whether the receiver has been able to understand his message or not. The process will be complete only after the sender receives feedback from the receiver. In the second phase, the receiver formulates his message, encodes it, and transmits it to the original sender, now turned receiver. This stage is referred to as providing feedback and is most crucial. If the feedback is in tune with the original intent of the sender, the communication will proceed without a hitch. However, there could be moments when the receiver does not agree with the message of the sender. This does not mean that there is breakdown of communication. We can in such instances state that effective communication is caught up for the time being. It could resume after subsequent discussions. There are certain parameters which are important for communication to be successful. The sender of the message should have a definite goal in his mind. A harmonious progression between the targets of the two people involved in the process of communication creates a favorable and simple environment for the growth of ideas and concepts. Irrespective of the preliminary state of affairs, it is important for the sender to hold on to the following stages. Number 1. Make the receiver aware of the topic. Number 2. Recommend his point of view very clearly and precisely so as to reduce the probability of uncertainty in the mind of the receiver. Number 3. Facilitate smooth flow of conversion by practicing strategic way of communication. Number 4. Consolidate or correct ideas in the receiver's mind of the concerned the goal of communication. Number 5. Accomplish the objective of communication. At the time of transmitting and receiving the message, all our five senses become significantly involved in absorbing its purpose. The logic that is principally dynamic at a certain stage helps the extent of absorption on a more active scale. For instance, within the process of the communicating, if the visual intellect at a specific point of time is extremely vigorous, the response is a reaction to only visual cues.